The year is 1951. These barrels of radioactive waste are being dumped into the Atlantic Ocean 120 miles from the coast of New York City. The radioactive waste will remain deadly for hundreds of thousands of years, and it is hoped that it will remain isolated from man and the environment at the bottom of the ocean forever. The same operation took place in the Pacific Ocean, 25 miles from San Francisco, just off the Farallon Islands. 25 years later, in 1975, the Environmental Protection Agency decided to find out what became of the barrels of waste. The first exploration was in the Pacific Ocean. The finding? That some of the barrels had leaked and radioactive material had been dispersed to the sea life and in the sediment of the surrounding area. The largest sponge ever seen was found around the barrels. The EPA said it was not a mutation. The report did say that the levels of radioactivity were low and there was no immediate danger. But there is no way of knowing how long all the barrels would last. 85,000 barrels were dumped in all. But today, the unseen emissions from radioactive waste are radiating from land disposal sites around the country. With a huge backlog of waste from the defense program and a growing inventory of waste from the nuclear power industry, the country is continuing to create more waste without knowing what to do with what we already have. We could be creating a radioactive waste monster with no cage to keep it in.
There is no doubt in my mind that the combination of the military and peaceful nuclear energy program has already caused a very, very grave health effect upon the population of the U.S. and the world.
We are not far advanced from where we were 20 years ago. We have not found a place to put nuclear waste. We have not settled on a specific design for disposing of nuclear waste. We do not know how much it's going to cost.
Well, we've been handling radioactive materials for 30 years. I'm sure we can handle them for hundreds and hundreds of years in the future.
We don't have available to us the use of nuclear energy. It will truly be catastrophic.
They say they can put it in cement blocks. Why don't they build an area around the White House and see that they would enjoy that as a fence?
NBC News presents Danger, Radioactive Waste. Reported by Floyd Calvert. We Americans have become a nation of energy junkies. Our daily dose has increased to a point where even a simple thing like getting up in the morning and having breakfast turns into a symphony of power and machines. The problems of nuclear waste are closely tied to our energy problems. The government says that because of our addiction to energy, we need more nuclear power plants. We now have 64 nuclear plants operating in the United States. The government says that we will need as many as 500 in the next 25 years if we're going to reduce our dependence on foreign oil. The problem is that as the nuclear industry grows, so grows the waste problem. Nuclear waste is dangerous because it is radioactive. Too much radiation can cause cancer and birth defects. Just how much radiation is dangerous is a matter of debate. Dr. Lauriston Taylor is president of the National Council on Radiation Protection, which sets the radiation exposure guidelines.
There's no such thing as absolute safety in anything. There's no way of saying that there is a level of radiation which is safe, and there is no way of saying that there is an absolute level of radiation which is unsafe. You can say that at high levels of radiation, it certainly is going to be unsafe. At very low levels of radiation or no radiation, it's safe. And that's about as close as you can come to it.
Dr. John Goffman is a medical doctor and a nuclear chemist who worked for the Atomic Energy Commission for 27 years, in his last post as Associate Director of the Lawrence Livermore Laboratory.
I don't think we'll accomplish the miracle of containment required for radioactive wastes, and I foresee that if we continue, there will be the epidemic of cancer, leukemia, and genetic injuries that I fear.
When you talk about radioactive waste, you are talking about the future, thousands of centuries from now. That's how long some of the waste stays radioactive. That means we are talking about what effect it will have on this baby and his great, 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 etc. grandchildren. The government separates the waste problem into three categories: low level, high level, and an exotic category of man-made elements called transuranic waste. The differences are the degree of radioactivity and the amount of time they remain dangerous. These are some of the radioactive elements that concern people. Strontium-90 can cause bone cancer. It is dangerous for 740 years. Iodine-129 goes to the thyroid gland. It is dangerous for 160 million years. Transuranics are also extremely long-lived and deadly, like plutonium. A speck inhaled can cause cancer, and it is dangerous for 250,000 years. Transuranics exist in both high and low-level waste. At virtually every major waste disposal site, there are problems. The everyday refuse of nuclear power plants, tools, clothing, even worn out or obsolete machinery, is buried like ordinary garbage in shallow trenches. The containers can be anything from cement to cardboard. Most often, they are barrels. This dumping site in Richland, Washington is operated by the nuclear engineering company called NECO, a subsidiary of the Teledyne Corporation. NECO operates 4 of the nation's 6 commercial burial sites. Most of this waste has a low level of radiation, but mixed in are the dangerous transuranics like plutonium. Because of the dangers, some of the low-level sites no longer accept transuranic waste. The Richland site is very dry, an important factor in picking a location, because water can carry radioactive material into the environment. At dumping sites, Geiger counters are used to measure radioactivity. Water has caused problems at another NECO site in Maxey Flats, Kentucky. Maxey Flats is wet. It receives 55 inches of rainfall a year. In 1975, the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, reported that radioactive material had moved off-site and that plutonium and other dangerous material like strontium-90 was found as far as 250 yards away. There are about 130 pounds of plutonium buried there. When Maxey Flats was opened in 1963, it was believed that the material would not move. The report revealed movement had occurred in less than 10 years. The EPA said there was no immediate danger to the public, but people who live in the area were alarmed. Many of them are farmers, and some are having unexplained problems with their animals. Most of the concerned people live along the banks of a creek, which at times has been filled with a strange milky material that has come from the Maxey Flats site. The cattle on the Hall farm drink from this stream.
Our biggest concern is the fact that in the report released concerning this, that it had been leaking for approximately 4 years, and we weren't told until about a year ago that it was leaking, and that neighborhood children have always swam in the creek, played in the water, and we began to notice changes in the creek water at times. Not all the time, but at times the creek water would be like a light gray, like water full of a different type of soil than we had here.
Oscar Hurst's cattle have been sick. About a dozen cattle have died in the past few years. He is worried about the radiation.
hair's been turning gray, gritting her teeth, and the dying, going up and down the milk. I talked to the local veterinarian, and he said he didn't know, and Dr. Sanger says it's copper. I tried to talk to some of the fellows taking samples from the nuclear plant, find out the symptoms of it, and they said they talk like it's crazy, thinking about this thing.
Just like they might come today and check the water, and some of that might seep in tomorrow somewhere. We're afraid of what we don't know. We don't know if there's a danger from it or not.
Bye, have a great time.